right here. This is a wonderful tool. If you don't have one, you need to get one. And if you can't afford one because your kids need to eat, sorry, your kids are just gonna have to skip a few meals. So, the very first thing we want to do is make sure we have our speakers. We've already gone through in another video how to install speakers and so on and so forth. So first thing we're going to do is just make sure all of our wires are labeled and ready to go. I went ahead and I stripped and labeled all my wires, except for one. I left one off on purpose for you guys. So, it's this guy right here. Very first thing we're going to do is score the outside jacket. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, look at that. So I ran some pretty cool, I had some 14 conductor speaker cable, but it was, I'm sorry, 14 conductor. I had some 14 gauge speaker cable, and so I went ahead and used that. The downside is that it has 4 wires. This is 4 conductor. I didn't use all 4 wires. I just used 2, the red and black. So, at least for the front speakers. Anyways, so when you strip the wire, you score it, you pull off the jacket, you're going to notice with this type of wire you have a string. Okay, if you look real close, I don't know if the camera can catch it, but there's a little nick right there. When you score the wire, most likely you're going to nick the wire underneath. So, that's bad. We don't want to do that. After you go ahead and score it, you take the string and you pull it. That's going to reveal nice, fresh, undamaged cable. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it back to the same length of all the other wires. See if I can get a shot of that. Okay. Oh no, I stripped it back a little too far. That's alright. Not the end of the world. Okay, after you pull the string, strip the wire back. That's what you get when you're trying to film and work at the same time. It's too hard. Cut off all the nonsense. And I know that this is a front speaker because I've already labeled all the rest. So the front speakers only use red and black. So I'm going to cut off the blue and green. I don't need it. When you're cutting the wires, make sure you are careful not to damage the good wire. Okay. So, get rid of all that nonsense. Then I'm going to pull it the same length as the other cable, cut it again. Okay, now I have no idea which speaker that this goes to, which is kind of a lie, but we're going to pretend that I don't know, because I really didn't label the wires and I really did have to find out which wires went to which speakers. So to do that, we're going to use something called a toner, or a tone generator, right here. This is a wonderful tool. If you don't have one, you need to get one. And if you can't afford one because your kids need to eat, sorry, your kids are just gonna have to skip a few meals. Very important tool. If you're gonna take this seriously, you need to have a toner that does a lot more than just send tones. It checks wires and identifies wires. It's a wonderful invention. Okay, so what we're gonna use it for here is we're gonna hook it up to our speaker cable. So I went ahead and I turned it on. It doesn't matter if you hooked red to red, black to black. It doesn't matter. I'm going to anyways, just for the heck of it. As soon as I do that, you can't hear it because my speakers are in another room. But as soon as I do that, my speaker starts making a tone. This one goes. So I'm going to go double check out there, and I'll be right back to make sure that this speaker is actually setting the tone that I want. Alright, through the process of elimination, I already knew that this was the front left speaker, but I just went and double checked. So as soon as I have it, I go ahead and label this dude front left. Remember, your speakers are all labeled as if you're watching TV. So if you're watching TV, the speaker in front of you to the left is your front left. Okay? Alright. So now, I turn off my tone generator. I'm using something called banana clips. I really like these. These guys right here. These go on the end of your speaker cables. I'm running a 7.1 here in my house, so I have enough of these to do 7 speakers. Okay, so what you do is you push it through. You don't have to use these. If you're not using them, you can skip this part. Push it through, kind of fan it out, like that. They got different versions, but this is how most of the ones I've seen are working, like that. Bam, like that. Blue for the black one. Untwist this. All right. Now, to determine the length of the wire that you want, I guess I should have probably mentioned this first. What I want to do is I don't know if someday I'm going to get a new receiver or something like that. So I'm making these wires long enough to go anywhere on the back of this receiver because the speakers are down here on the bottom. But if I get a new receiver, maybe the speakers will be up here. Maybe I'll lift it up. I got no idea. So I'm just giving myself enough slack that it doesn't hit the floor when it's connected and it's long enough to go anywhere. Okay? Now with all my speakers, these are my... Oh, I got strings everywhere. Oh no. These are my surround sound speakers. Okay? I've got a 7.1 here, which means I've got 3 across the front. That's my front left, center, front right. And then I've got one to my right, which would be my surround right. One to my left, which is my surround left. And then I've got 2 in the back. They're called back left, back right. They'll call them also surround back left, surround back right. If you are not running a 7.1, you're going to be running a 5.1, which is 3 across the front, 2 in the back. But when you're running a 5.1, the speakers are not called surround back. They're only called surround. Kind of tricky, I know. So in a 7.1, the surround speakers are to your left and right. In a 5.1 system, the surround speakers are in the back. Okay, so now that we've got all these wires cut, labeled, got our connectors on, I'm going to finish stripping the rest of my wire. I just have a couple more speakers, and then we'll talk about the equipment that we're going to install. Alright, with all of our wires labeled, stripped, terminated, ready to land, it's time to start talking about equipment. You're looking at the RXA 2040. Whoa! This is a beast of a surround sound receiver. It's a wonderful piece of equipment. This is what we're going to be hooking up here today. So this is the main brain. A receiver is more than just an amplifier. A receiver also has audio processors and video processors and switches, and this thing is really the main center, the hub of the entire system. So get a good one. Okay, so moving on up the rack, some automation stuff. Okay, here we go. We have an old TiVo here, and this old TiVo does not have an HDMI connection. It does, but we're going to pretend like it's broken. It does work, but we're going to pretend like it's broken for this installation. Okay, moving up. DirecTV satellite box. DirecTV is by far the best TV provider. I'm not just saying that because I used to be a dealer. I'm saying that because it's the truth, especially if you want to get into automation. If you want to get into automation and truly like control your system exactly without any flaws, DirecTV, no question about it. Moving on up. This is my analog camera DVR with just a standard video out. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And up to the top, that's just a standard Panasonic Blu-ray player. I like it. It's a little old, but I like it. Had it for a long time. Okay, so as you can see from the back of this receiver, there's about 5,000 connections back here. If you use all of them, you're crazy. You will not use all of them. You'll probably be lucky if you use half of them. But they're all there to give you the ability to really dial in the system that you want. So before I start landing wires, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are just like, shut up, let's see how to do it. You can't do that. The surround sound hookups do not work like that at all. There's a lot to know before you get into it, so we're going to jump over to Alan at UDO University. Professor Allen, with his PhD in AV, is going to go over a little bit about the wiring, what to use, how to use it, and what it does.